one game away. Blow up. We're playing for something, man. We're playing for something. It's gotta mean something to you. It gotta mean something. Everything you got. Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
This is crazy.
Absolutely nuts. Through half a round. Gathje back to work on the leg kick, landing the right hand. Oh! Big knockdown with the right for Oliveira. Now trying to transition to the back.
This is not good. You cannot let Oliveira on your back.
He's going to take the arm.
Yep, he's going to take his arm.
Oh, big elbows from Oliveira.
Justin's in a lot of trouble here. I mean, this Charles Oliveira, man. I mean, Rogan, this
He's got a triangle. He's got a triangle.
Oh, he's got a triangle, too. This Oliveira is just... Oh, my goodness.
Gathje's out.
He can't let him take his back. Oh, he's got the choke.
He's got
the
fully
choke.
locked in.
It's over.
Fully locked in. It's over.
Oliveira's under the chin.
Oh, my goodness.
Switches up the grip.
He's going to go to sleep.
Oh, my
That is
goodness.
going to do it.
This dude right
Who
here,
can
man.
stop Charles Oliveira? 11 in a row and still the best lightweight on planet Earth.
Tremendous.
This dude right here, man.
Absolutely tremendous performance.
Dude is a savage.
Hey, we back with another UFC. I just got some pretty bad news before I got on. Some pretty, how it turned out tonight going to determine how bad the news was or how it turned out during the day, but pushing through that. Yo, what's up, y'all? I'm miserable. I'm miserable right now. I'm telling you. We finna get into this UFC review. But I am miserable right now, yo. And it's not because, well, aside from the news that I got like an hour ago, man, I gotta start this new job next week, man. And I already done came to the conclusion I'm never gonna give jobs like all of me anymore, because after working for so long and so many jobs at such a short amount of time, or like, I'm only 28 and I done worked a shit ton of jobs already and I've seen the insides and outsides of most different jobs and shit. I'm not here for it. Not here for it. So, actually, give me a second. I'm ignorant. I gotta get something to drink. I can't do the show without something to drink, so hold up. And now I got my drink and we can continue with the show. But listen, the thing that's got me down in the dumps, man, that new job that I start next week. And listen, the job paid me pretty good. It's Monday to Friday, 10 at night to 3 in the morning, so it ain't nothing outrageous. I just truly don't like working for companies. And this coming from a dude who work all the time, but I just don't like working for companies. Like, I'm one of the motherfuckers who work all the time, but I don't enjoy it. I'll never walk around bragging. Oh, I work 2 jobs. Oh, I work all the time. Oh, man, my entire life is working. Yeah, I don't wear that as a badge of honor. As a matter of fact, I legitimately been thinking about the last, since I knew that it started on Monday, I was thinking to myself, like, around that 10 to 4 in the morning area, it's my recording time. So, gonna be interesting to see how we do this, because it will be interesting. But another thing that I don't like, because I had already gotten to this habit before, where it's like you go to work every single day of the week. Now, I'm used to working 12 hours a day, but I done drastically cut back from doing that type of bullshit. Like, I'm 28 years old. It is absolutely no reason why I should be working 12. I don't think it's a reason anybody should be working them type of ridiculous hours, especially when you don't have kids. But preferably working crazy hours. I would rather have somebody working, crazy hours, but have great pay so they ain't got to do that shit. Like, going to work every day of the week. Now, listen, I'm not saying people shouldn't work or you shouldn't work. That's not what I'm advocating. What I'm saying is I wish people could have more time to spend with their families, more time to do the things that they want to do, not just going to work every day. And because this system of work done been built into so many people's head, they think that shit all right. So they get into these situations where they'll be working from Monday to Friday, right? Have 2 days off, but they'll usually be working one of them 2 days for extra money because they be like, oh, I need the extra money, so I'll work them 2 days. They'll work their hours on those Monday through Friday, but they'll probably be working a lot of overtime and a lot of extra hours because need that money. Then they'll be complaining about those hours that they work. Oh, I'm always here. Oh, I got no. But it's not that they're complaining because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. And it's not complaining of saying, like, oh, I'm not going to do this no more. They complaining because that's how they get through this type of job, right? Because they don't want to be there, but they know they have to. And I think that's a real shame because nowadays, what I realize is younger people are more innovative in the way they find ways to make money and not kill themselves working. And I respect that. Even to a point where I realize a whole bunch of young people will work jobs that don't pay them a shit ton of money. But the hours are great because it allowed them to still have a life outside of work, where work is like a part-time thing to them and nowhere near the full. Like, I love it when I see people, and it's usually young people who I see like this, not the older retired people. I love it when I see young people walking around with nice clothes and shit like that, and just all this free time and shit, and you always see them around because you be like, yo, you don't work today? Psst, I already done been to work. Or yeah, I work. Or, you know, don't worry about my schedule. Somebody who always working, who got a perfect schedule for them, but you still see them all the time living their life, and you like, how the fuck do this motherfucker work? Now, I never think that to myself because I love it when I see motherfuckers who work smart, not hard. Love it. Absolutely love it. If you can find a way to make great money or money that's good enough for you without having to kill yourself, bro. I used to have an apartment that I lived in, and I never really lived in it because I was at work every fucking day of the week, working 2 jobs, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, that led all the way to early morning. So that's not a life that motherfuckers should be striving to live, to be completely honest with you. But I digress. I just want motherfuckers to, dream and aspire for more than that, because that's not a fun life. And to me, after living it for so long, like, this is not enjoyable. You can do things and you can have people in your life to make it enjoyable, but I don't think this work every day, especially when you're not working towards your dreams every day. You're working towards other people's dreams every day. Like, I'm not a real big component of that. I prefer people grind to what you want. You know what I'm saying? You might have to go through a couple jobs. You might have to be jobless for a while. You know, I'm not advocating, again, to not work. I am advocating to not make work your life. You know what I'm saying? When jobs say, oh, you can make this a career and all that type of stuff, that goes in one ear and out my ass. Because when I take a shit at night, that's where all that garbage that I consume, that's where it come out. Because, no, I cannot make this my career. No, I cannot make McDonald's a career. No, and that's no shot at McDonald's. No, I cannot make Walmart, Harris Teeter, any of these jobs. I cannot make a career. UPS, FedEx, the post office. No, those are not the careers that I want. Those are not what I'm striving to be, is a mailman the rest of my life. And I hear old people all the time say, you just got to do these type of jobs, No, y'all had to do these type of jobs because y'all failed to, y'all stopped dreaming. Y'all stopped chasing goals. Y'all no longer thought it was cool to chase them. Y'all saw the norm. They threw a bit of money in front of it. You said, okay, I know how to manage that. I'll do that for the rest of my life. That's just not the reality of what people want to do nowadays. And so that's why it's funny to me when I see older people who done got set in their life where it's no dream chasing. And it's so funny to me also that these older folks who stuck in their ways and now, They tell you that they lived their dreams and you realize what they did. And okay, if that was your dream, then, shout out to you. But my dreams far exceed that. So, that's just my little rant on hate working. Because right now my schedule is Monday through Friday. I'm not working on Sundays and Saturdays. And so Monday through Friday, people are like, oh, that's not that bad a schedule. It's not. It's only bad when you have no interest in working for companies, which is me. I have absolutely zero interest in working for any company that I work for that is not pertaining to my goals and getting to where I want to get to in life. And some people might be like, oh, that's selfish. It's not. Only a dumbass who is stuck in their ways wanting to live the norm by what everybody else see fit for them is somebody who would think me wanting best for me or wanting to live the life that I want to live. And it's not about, oh, he want to drive around in cars and wear chains and stuff like that. I don't wear jewelry. I don't wear watches. I don't wear chains. That's never going to change. That kind of rhyme. I want to talk sports. I want to build something here. I want to be able to make good money talking. It's going to be bigger than just talking sports. Like I said, this is not going to just be a podcast either. I know that's what it feels like now, but that's definitely not what it's going to just be. And maybe I do end up getting a deal to do a podcast within all this, but that's just not what this is going to be. It's going to be a show. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be recordings. It's going to be a big team behind me. Like, this is going to be big. And I'm going to keep working for that. Why would you go to work every day grinding for, let's say, UPS, since that's where I work at? How much sense do it make for me going to UPS every day, right? Grinding, putting in a lot of work at UPS, but not doing the same for my own dreams? Because UPS is not achieving my dreams. Working at UPS is helping fund the things I need for my dreams. But it's not getting me no closer to my dreams working at UPS. And motherfuckers will start working for these. Like, bro, I done seen motherfuckers work for companies, absolutely hate the company, bro, and still come every day because it's the norm for them. And they don't want to fuck up the norm, which is most people. But we didn't come here for that. But you kind of did come here for that because, you know, I could go anywhere on this thing. But, yo, how dope was the day? Let's go ahead and kick it off. UFC 2, I don't remember the fucking number, but it was Oliveira taking on Charlie Olive, taking on, and you know Charlie, that's my guy, taking on Justin Gaethje. And obviously the co-main event was Rose Namajunas taking on Carla Esparza. So, not a great card. I'm going to just go ahead and keep it a whole buck with you, man. Not a great card. And before I already said that, so I can't say before I say that. But I have, if you listen to me, you know, on these MMA reviews, any of these reviews for athletes, bro, I have, especially for these UFC fighters, I have nothing but the utmost respect for these fighters. Nothing but the utmost respect. I'm telling you. But, you know what I'm saying? When I talk about them, I try to be as respectful as possible. Nothing I'm saying is personal. I love every single one of these athletes who step into this octagon because I know how dangerous that is. I know the risk you put yourself in when you step inside that octagon. So, and before I even start, shout out to Tony Ferguson. I hope he okay. We'll get into him later, but he had to go to the hospital last night. I hope he good. I don't know how he didn't shatter almost every tooth in his mouth after what he took. But, so shit, where do I want to start at? You know what? I know exactly where I want to start at. Charlie Olive. So, going into this fight, he missed weight by, he was over by just 0.5 pounds, kilograms, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's so wild. Like, and listen, listen, the rule is you got to come in shape or you get straight. I get it. I get that rule. 0.5 pounds was not going to mean a damn thing in this fight. Now, knowing the rules, listen, I understand it. You got to strip him when the title starts. So, Charles Oliveira could not win the title last night. Even though he won the fight last night, he could not win the title. It was vacated as soon as the fight started. The only guy who could win the fight was Justin Gaethje. Who could win the title last night was Gaethje. Now, when Charles Oliveira, and like my man told you guys, the champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira. And when he get his next fight, it will be for the championship because he is the number one contender after last night. And this man is the greatest submission specialist to ever walk into the UFC. It's not even close in my opinion. And I thought that 2 fights ago. And then the next fight that he had when he jumped on bruh back and just took him out. And then this one. That is disappointing that he missed weight. I'm not going to hold that against him. It was 0.5. Listen. I saw Michael Bisping, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch because I like it when people know what they're talking about and they break shit down. But I was watching Michael Bisping talk about this, and I agree with a lot of what Michael Bisping was saying about Charles Oliveira and what he done been through, because they did show a package last night where they was talking about how his mom couldn't read or write and how his dad could just barely, he could do some reading and writing, like how he grew up in poverty and whatnot. And you love it how he walked to the cage and then to the octagon, and you see all the people who he walked to greet and kiss on the cheek and hug and whatnot. And you can see he got a strong support system. And I saw Michael Bisping talk about how these dudes dyed their hair like Oliveira. That is fire. I like that commitment. It felt like we coming in here for this. And Michael Bisping talked about, shout out Michael Bisping, he talked about how Oliveira looked at the weigh-ins, like after you get past the scale debacle, and you look at how how they stand up against each other, the face-off, and how Oliveira looked. He just looked like a man on a mission, like I'm better than all these dudes, and I know where I am now. I know what I am now. I have unlocked my potential and my abilities, and I know that there's nobody that can beat me. And so I done talked about Justin Gaethje a lot on the channel. I done talked about Dustin Poirier a lot on the channel, Michael Chandler on the channel. Those three guys really resemble each other a lot. I call them the pandemic hustlers, the pandemic wrestlers, the pandemic fighters, because during the pandemic, those was really the three, and Kamaru Usman, but he was big before that, but Kamaru Usman was one of the most active fighters during the pandemic. But those three dudes were also very active, and those three dudes was huge during the pandemic because they had exciting fights, they stand up and strike, they do not like going to the ground. Like Michael Chandler fucking wrestled last night towards the end of the first round. That was shocking to me. Not only was it shocking that he said, fuck this stand up for a while, I gotta take this down. That motherfucker basically spear tackled Tony Ferguson. Like, it caught Tony off guard. It was crazy. But those three dudes, as talented as they are, I do not think those three dudes are champion level fighters. I think those are fighters that put a great fight on your resume. And those are the fighters who you look back in your career and say, man, those dudes were entertaining as shit. They might not have been the most technically sound dudes. Those might not have been the highest IQ fighters. But man, those three motherfuckers put on shows every single time we see them in the fight. That's why they got all this stuff after the fight that they do. Like, that's those guys to me. And it's no shot at them. I just don't think that they are as great technically. And you know what's funny about Justin Gaethje? Justin Gaethje can wrestle. But he just chooses not to. Like, he does not bring out his wrestling. He would rather just stand up and fight with you. That is pretty crazy, but he done benefited from it as far as like his bonuses and fights of the nights and shit like that. But when you're trying to get a championship, bro, Khabib ain't trying to stand up with you, bro. Khabib don't care how boring this fight gonna be. He trying to win it by all means necessary. That's the end goal. And I like how they kept saying that on the announcer team last night. Like, yo, the fighter's goal is to win this fight, bro. Of course they want to put on a show for you, but the goal is to win the fight. Now, that all of that was true until we got to that second to last fight, the co-main event, which we'll get to. But this fight with those three fighters, like I said, respectfully, I respect what they are and what they go into the cage and what they go into the octagon and do. But I don't think those three fighters that Oliveira done beat all three of them at this point. I said it the other day, like, Oliveira done beat all the pandemic fighters. I don't think that because as strong as they are and as great, and one of the things that I realized, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje, these dudes throw all bricks all the time. Like, they are throwing everything in their body with every fucking punch. They don't pull punches. They just straight up is throwing gas at all times. That's why they be gassed towards the end of these fights, and that's why it's hard for them to get through 5 with the same type of energy they had from the first 2. Because you look at Gaethje last night. Gaethje was just throwing hammers through the entire first round when he was swinging. He's swinging so wild at times that he falling when he throw the punch and miss. Then you got Michael Chandler who throw the way he throw. And it's so crazy because when you have dudes who throw like that, obviously they can get caught because they probably not the most technically sound dudes or the defensive guys that you would want them to be. Tony Ferguson, I thought, was going to win that fight in the beginning of the fight. Now, we're going to get to the Tony Ferguson in a second, but it's just interesting that the two of the pandemic fighters was on the same card, and they had the 2 best fights of the night, technically, or at least they had the moments of the night. But Like I said, I like these 3 dudes, and I know people call them Dana guys. I mean, listen, I don't like Dana as much as the next motherfucker, but I mean, if I'm Dana, I would love 3 dudes that make a lot of money for me to come in and put on a show and shit too, to be completely honest with you. I have no problem with those dudes being called Dana guys because they are willing to go in there and, because to be completely honest with you, their fighting style is stupid. Like, they do not, bro, they just stand and bang. Even against dudes who probably hit harder than them. They do not care. Their hype is all they believe in when they go into these fights. I mean, look at Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's promo videos before this fight, I'm pretty sure he was very knowledgeable about what Oliveira could do and whatnot. But if you look at the like the little promo videos and whatnot, it didn't feel like he believed in the hype of Oliveira. He respected him from where he done been and where he done came to, but it don't really feel like Gaethje was, you know what I'm saying? I think Gaethje's thing, either I'm getting knocked out or knocking somebody out, is basically the gist of how he feeling at all times. You know what I'm saying? Either he believe in his height, and if it just so happens somebody knock him out, then it is what it is. But it's a pretty wild way to and I understand that's what the crowd like, and that's what make you the extra bonuses and the extra money and all that type of shit. But to become a champion and to make that type of money and to have that on your legacy would have been phenomenal. But I never had for 1 second thought Gaethje was gonna win this fight coming into this fight. Like, some people talk about how Oliveira get knocked down a lot. I would argue that he don't really get knocked down as much as y'all think. He pull guard and he go down on purpose to see if people will chase him to the ground. Most people don't. Now, I'm not saying he haven't had moments where he was legitimately knocked down. Poirier, Chandler, and Gaethje caught him. I truly believe the only one who truly dropped him might have been Chandler. Chandler might have actually dropped him. Poirier even, I think, got him once. But most of the time, he is falling in slow motion because he pulling his guard, or he trying to get you to come down to his guard on the ground because of how unbelievably great he is at jiu-jitsu. And I'm going to tell you what's absolutely hilarious about him. Not just the pulling guard thing, because that is funny. And I might be even using the wrong term, and if I am, excuse me. I don't want people to think I'm up here Daniel Cormier and my shit. Now I'm just playing Daniel. DC, I'm just playing. Hey, DC went into the Hall of Fame last night. Beautiful moment. Beautiful moment. Everybody in the crowd was happy. You know, you saw Bruce Buffer come through with his fire-ass suit and give him a hug. You know, you knew he was going to hug Rogan. Still don't know other dude's name on the announcer table with them. Don't know why I cannot remember this dude's name for some reason. And he is legitimately a part of the UFC because I see him at multiple things. Cannot remember this man's name to save my life. But DC and Joe Rogan had their moment. You know, I saw Olivia give him, the pat on the back and whatnot. I think she's somebody else's wife, so he probably didn't want to get into that by hugging her and have another dude feeling some type of way, even though that's his colleague. So I would have had no problem with that. Either way, you saw my man Dom Cruz in the back. You know, you saw him give him a pat on the shoulder and whatnot. You know, and if DC's still holding some type of grudge towards Dom because of what Dom said after the thing, like I mute the TV with DC, that's real reckless, DC, and that's real childish and petty. But I'm not here to shit on your moment, because all I'm saying is Dom was right. Either way, that was a great moment last night. DC got into the Hall of Fame. Listen, last night they did a great job on commentary based on, and I'm not saying every time they on the booth is bad, but I am saying that it's times where I'm watching a fight and they calling that fight, and I'm saying this is not the fight that I am watching right now. Y'all are calling the fight that's happening in y'all head, because what I'm seeing is not what's happening based off of what y'all saying. That happens. But listen, we passed that. Shout out to DC, man. He definitely deserves to be into the Hall of Fame. Is DC married? I don't even know if DC is married. If he is, I've never seen DC's wife and kids. And if he is married with wife and kids, I respect a man who keep his family life personal. That's respectable. But yeah, shout out to DC, man. One of the greats of the UFC. It's crazy that I don't remember all the greats that I got to watch in the UFC growing up touch the Hall of Fame. Like, is Rampage Jackson in the Hall of Fame? I don't remember seeing him get inducted. Like, do you have to legitimately be retired for this shit? Like, when is John Jones getting into the Hall of Fame? Like, you could legitimately put him in right now. I could care less about how y'all feel about his situations outside of the octagon. I don't even care if y'all try to bring up his dick pills that y'all gonna try to say, oh, he had an event. Yeah, whatever. When my man's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Like I said, though, not here to shit on Daniel Cormier. Not here to shit on DC. One of the greats. I love DC personally. I think he was a phenomenal wrestler. One of the dudes who made me want to improve my wrestling. Because I used to wrestle and I see DC and I'm like, oh, I'm nowhere. Obviously, we are nowhere near DC. But that make you see him and you like, man, this dude going in there ragdolling motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like, DC done beat some dudes now. Like, he didn't beat John Bones Jones, but that's because that's the GOAT. But that motherfucker done beat some dudes. I mean, he done beat. And I'm going to tell you something about DC, yo. DC beat Stipe that first time to get 2 titles. And, you know, he beat Rumble Johnson, who people thought was going to beat him. The third Stipe fight, DC, you won that fight. I don't know how they scored Stipe to win that fight. I remember that fight. I thought you won that fight also, DC. And it didn't help that Buddy poked you in the fucking eye and about took your fucking eyeball out and you was fighting with one eye through the rest of that fight. I know you don't want to have to bring that up, DC, but I'm trying to show you, my boy, that I fucks with you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to bring it up for you. You really should be 2-1 against Stipe. And I'm going to also say this. Stipe is not the greatest heavyweight champion of all fucking time. He was not active enough to be considered the greatest one. And it's dudes back in the day who I feel like if I put Stipe against some of them heavyweights back in the day, they would have rocked his ass. Listen, I'm not taking away from Stipe's greatness. I'm not. But what I am saying is Stipe beat Daniel Cormier once. He should not have got that third victory over Cormier. And Cormier was cocky, which is why he lost that second one. But DC, I think you're a greater overall champion and fighter all the time than Stipe, big dog. I just want to put that out there. Now, you ain't touching John Jones yet. You not Bones. You're not Bones. But you up there, my guy. You up there. You a household name. That's all we really trying to be in life is a household name. Like, people know Daniel Cormier, DC. You know what I'm saying? So, shout out to DC, man. He made it into the UFC Hall of Fame. Do they get something for entering the UFC Hall of Fame? Like, fuck them jackets. Do they get like a trophy or something to put at the crib? Like, do they get a title? Oh, yeah, they should make like a Hall of Fame title for these dudes, man. They still call them belts in the UFC. Like, belts ain't want to help hold your pants up, bro. It's pretty wild. But, you know, either way, shout out to Daniel Cormier. Yo, when Joe Rogan going into the Hall of Fame, too, now that I'm thinking about it? Might as well go ahead and throw that motherfucker in there. Now, I'm not saying might as well go ahead and throw that motherfucker in there as in, oh, well, that's what you did to DC. No. DC deserved to be a Hall of Famer. I'm not trying to say make light of his Hall of Fame selection, nothing like that. Never doing that. That's disrespectful as shit. He deserved to be in that. I saw Carla Esparza talking about she thinks she a Hall of Famer after her fight last night. I mean, this is her second title. She done beat Rose Namajunas twice, even though, you know. Let's go ahead and get to that fight. Matter of fact, let's. No. We're not getting to that fight. Let's keep talking about the 3 pandemic heroes. Yo, Chandler. Shout out to Michael. I like Michael Chandler. That's the thing. When I call these dudes that's not me being disrespectful. That's just me saying that these dudes popped off during the pandemic. They was like the biggest things during the pandemic. Michael Chandler, I like Michael Chandler. I wish he stopped doing the backflip off the cage. I'm glad he didn't do that last night. And just overall, I wish he would chill out with the backflips a little bit. Like, I'm well aware that the man can pop the backflips, but I just don't want you, after you done went through these type of fights, doing a backflip, bro. Might land funny or anything. Sweating in the octagon. Like, come on, bro. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to see the man get hurt doing a backflip and have these bozo fans out there start, which they will be right when they start, oh, the man hurt himself doing a backflip. He should have stopped doing it. I would understand that. There come a time where we can have a grounded, you know, celebration, big dog Chandler. Like, you know what I'm saying? But So Michael Chandler is a very interesting watch because I like Michael Chandler because just like Gathje and Poirier, they are very fun fighters to watch. You know, I don't really go into their fights expecting them to win the fights per se, but I do expect it to be great fights. Or I should say I don't expect them to win all their fights. Now, I did think that Ferguson could get this fight just based off of the simple fact that Michael Chandler has no fight IQ. Like, Michael Chandler, his fight IQ is so bad, like, that it's almost as if he does not have a fight IQ at all when you look at some of these fights. His defense is atrocious. His chin is probably one of the worst in the UFC. And I really can't explain it because Michael Chandler can take one hit and be wobbled the rest of the fight. But the motherfucker's heart, that's what keep this motherfucker standing. It's just this dude's heart and his ego just will not let him go down. Like, you really have to put that motherfucker down if you're going to beat him. That's why that's why Gaethje couldn't end that fight when they fought that first time. Because this motherfucker Chandler is not just going down. Like, you have to actually put him down. Nail that motherfucker to the floor. And because Tony Ferguson could not do that, and he basically lost the end of the first round. Like, I give him the first round, but towards the end of the first round, and you could have gave the first round to Chandler too. Like, Ferguson did, start off because for one, Ferguson lost his fight, but he didn't look like, oh, I don't belong in the octagon. You know what I'm saying? Everybody get caught. That's just the reality of it. So it didn't look like Ferguson didn't belong in the octagon. Now, that tackle was what concerned me. Because where we at where we is letting motherfuckers tackle us like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, where are we at in our careers where where that just happened? You know what I'm saying? It's rare that you see UFC fighters get taken off of their feet like that on a tackle attempt or on a takedown attempt. It's very rare that you see that type of thing unless you just, you know what I'm saying? It might happen towards the end of the fight sometimes where the fight been going one way the whole time, so you don't expect that at all. But it's very rare that you get taken off of 2 feet in the air like Tony Ferguson got taken out last night with that takedown attempt. And then the ground and pound was pretty good for Tony Ferguson from being on the bottom at first. But then Michael Chandler started to use his strength and started to overpower him on the ground. And it's a good thing that the round ended because I think Tony Ferguson would have actually got put down right there. Because I thought that was about to be, I thought Ferguson was starting to tire out with the hand fighting at on the bottom. And that he was really hoping that clock shrunk down faster. But then you come out in the second round, and like I said, bro, they could have went anyway, and he just straight up got cut. See, Tony Ferguson keep his hands spread apart when he guard. Like, he keep them on opposite sides of his head most of the time, or he keep them spaced out to where it's a line going straight up the middle. And if you make yourself a stationary target at any point in time in a fight, in an MMA fight, if you make yourself a stationary target, and your head specifically is a stationary target, and it's no blocking, it's like a straight path to it, you should always expect that there could be a time where a front kick come and just put your lights out, like what happened to Tony Ferguson. When I used to do MMA, one of the things that my MMA instructor used to talk to us about is when you defend, you want to keep one fist right in front of your face, not to block your vision, but just and so you can't have nobody come right up the pipe. So when you have a dude in Tony Ferguson who's when his defense, like his fighting stance, keep his hands so separated, and he move forward basically like it's still it's not any real distance in between them two. See, what would happen to Tony Ferguson is if somebody was great at jabbing, they would just keep popping off jabs on him because of how bad his blocking is. But Chandler, a motherfucker who hit heavy, he not trying to go straight down a pipe. He is throwing haymakers. He throwing overhead punches and shit. And everything he throw is a house. So you can't get hit with it. And he throw that Anderson Silva front kick, which was probably more gruesome than Anderson Silva's when you go look at the replay. Because Tony Ferguson went to go see Jesus Christ last night for a couple seconds. or for a couple minutes, because he put Tony out cold. Like, I was contemplating if I wanted to make that the front of the thumbnail. I'm not gonna do that to Big Dog Ferg. Big Ferg. I'm not gonna do that to him. But Jesus fucking Christ. Yo, that kick hurt my jaw. That kick hurt. I don't know how Big Ferg didn't lose all his teeth right there. That shit hurt. Like, that shit hurt me. That shit look gruesome. I don't know how Big Ferg didn't, boy. And he face planted. And you never want to see nobody go out like that. But boy, what a moment for Chandler. Now, Chandler to me is never going to be a champion unless just like something miraculously happens to where all the great technical fighters find a way to retire out or do something stupid to get out of the game. Because Chandler to me won't be a champion while Charles Oliveira is in this division. And the biggest reason why is, like I said before, the IQ and all that, Chandler's chin is glass. And like I say, he stayed fighting because of his heart. But man, you can't keep taking that type of damage. Like, especially when you rely so much on, because Chandler tired himself out after the first 2 rounds. Like, and it was amazing he didn't tire himself out last night after the first round. And who knows, because the second round only lasted a couple seconds. But after the win last night, he called out Conor McGregor. That is a fight I would like to see. For the simple reason, Conor can't keep trying to fight these technically sound monsters. You know, he got to fight these dudes who are just straight up stand-up specialists, bro. Who just want to stand and bang. And Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor is still the dude that he think he is, this is the fight that he got to take. I don't want to see him fight Charlie Olive because Charlie Olive tapping him out. I want to see him fight Michael Chandler. Now, I do want to see him fight Charlie Olive to get Charlie Olive that payday. But I want to see him fight Michael Chandler. That would be an absolute... Bro, that's like a rock 'em, sock 'em type of fight, bro. These motherfuckers just going in there throwing bombs. Now, Conor McGregor better watch out because he ain't never got slept in his career. He could get slept by this motherfucker. I'm telling you right now, this is the motherfucker that could sleep Conor. I'm just telling you right now. You thought what Dustin Poirier did was... No. This motherfucker right here hit harder than Poirier. This motherfucker might lack all the type of fight IQ that Dustin Poirier possesses. But when you really get down to the nooks and crannies of it all, they the same fighters. It's just one of them throw absolute bombs. And this dude, Michael Chandler, Michael Chandler gonna stand up and fight with him. He not gonna take him to the ground like some people might, like Khabib did and all. No, he is about to try to stand and bang with Conor. Now, if Conor start doing that leg kicking shit, then all bets is off. Now, if you want to stand up and bang and just throw fists, Michael Chandler is all for that. We done seen Michael Chandler do that with other people like Gathje. And shit, I would like to see him fight Gathje, to be completely honest with you. Like, to me, Gathje, Poirier, and Chandler have to know that title shots is nowhere near in their future, most likely. But it's still used for these dudes. This is what I be saying with the UFC. Like, they got to find a way, either create more titles like boxing, or just fucking start like crazy of everything. Don't have to just be a pay-per-view event for the championships. You can do fun type themed events with these fights and with these fighters and like different type of, like WWE have different, and I understand the titles is on the line at these things because there's so many different fights, but for the UFC you could do these same things so you can make some of these lesser names bigger names. Like, and then the top of the cards could be a Gaethje taking on a Conor McGregor or a Chandler taking on a, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't mind seeing Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje part 2, to be completely honest with you, because that fight was crazy in the beginning. So I would love to see that fight again. You don't have to have these fights just to have, you know what I'm saying, a title don't have to be on the line for these fights to happen. A contendership don't have to be on the line for these shits to happen. But you could create more valid contenderships if you have more type of shows. Like, I don't know why this is popping up in my head right now, but let's just say Bash at the Beach like the WWE used to have, right? or WCW used to have, but the WWE NXT recreated it. You could do some type of summer themed events. They love to go to Abu Dhabi. You could do some type of Abu Dhabi themed event. Like, just make these events more than just UFC 247 and shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Or fight night. Like, come on, man. Like, you can make bigger events with these. You got so many fighters. You want to get them exposure. You want to keep bringing in money. This is different ways to do it. You have your own octagon. I'm pretty sure you could decorate the your own building any way you seem fit, and you just had the money to put on these events. So I would love to see a card where it's like Justin Gaethje taking on Michael Chandler Part 2, or Michael Chandler taking on Conor McGregor and Justin Gaethje co-main eventing it against somebody else who's standing and banging. You know what I'm saying? Because these is dudes who, even though they might not win a title, these is dudes that bring the money in, who bring fans in. These is big name guys who might not be legendary fighters or champion, but they dudes that get the fans in the seats. They'll become Hall of Famers because of the great fights they done had. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I look at Forrest Griffin, right? I don't think Forrest Griffin is like the greatest technical UFC fighter I've ever seen, but he had great fights for the most part. These dudes is having great fights, and if they can continue to have these type of fights, win or lose, it's going to be hard not to put them into the Hall of Fame. But let's hop to somebody else who was talking about the Hall of Fame. Carla Esparza think that she deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not going to argue with her, to be completely honest with you. I'm not. Because after the fight last night, I was thinking to myself, before she even said it, or before I even had caught wind of her saying it, saw the video of her saying it, I was thinking to myself, this might be a Hall of Fame type of win for Carla. Because, like, she done been around for a while. She done been great. She done been a champion. And she just beat the person who she won that title off again. And Rose is going to be a Hall of Famer. So I don't know how Rose can go into the Hall of Fame and you don't put Carla Esparza in it. Now, you would like for Carla's matches to get a little more lit. You would like to see some more finishes. Because now that I'm thinking about it, to be honest with you, I probably could not put her in the Hall of Fame just off of beating Rose twice, especially this fight, because this was probably the worst title fight I'd ever seen in my life. And I respect every single man, woman that walk into the octagon. But last night was rough with that one. And I'm not even going to go over the Shogun fight and Pierre. That was atrocious too. But there was nothing on the line in that one. So, you know. But this, and then there was a fight that they got put on this card, because I want to go over that one. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. But the two black men who fought to open up the main card because Cowboy Cerrone had food poisoning. Shout out to those two motherfuckers, specifically the tall one, who had, I can't remember his name, bro, but that motherfucker reminded me a lot of John Jones. If he can clean up some of his shit, because he started feeling like Michael Venom Page for a while, and if you start to act like that in the UFC, bro, it ain't gonna last long, because there was another dude in the UFC who was like that from Texas, bro. I can't remember his name at the moment, but either way, that motherfucker kind of reminded me of John Jones because of how long he was and shit last night. Even though he like I said, he kind of foolish with the Anderson Silva style defending and shit, getting caught. But shout out to them two dudes. But this fight, probably the most boring fight I've ever seen in a title fight. And it was pretty amazing because obviously I wanted Rose to win. And it was very upsetting or very strange when you realize Rose did. So the first round, after all this excitement and hype and the crowd's going crazy, right? It's like you stand up at a basketball game to the first shot go in, right? You would have been still standing after that first round. I don't think nobody hit each other in that first round. My body started to ache in anticipation for somebody to hit each other. Like, they were circling each other. They wasn't even boxing the air. Like, it was so bad. Like, I've never seen a feel-out process take this long. Especially when you a and they shout out to DC, Rogan, and other dude on commentary, because they, I mean, Jesus Christ, this was something. They kept going over multiple matches to see if this was the worst one. Joe Rogan just wasn't having. He was done. That man say, man, if you tell somebody that the UFC this great sport and they tune in and they see this fight, they're gonna be, man, you're gonna lose fans. And I agree with him. That was a bad fight. Now, the reality is sometimes this shit happens. Now, it very rarely does this shit happen, but sometimes this shit does happen. And what shocked me was the fact that, because Rose basically didn't do shit the whole match. The biggest shocker for me at the end of this was that this was a split, because this should have been a unanimous win for Carla Esparza, who is getting married this weekend coming up. So shout out to her, because she gonna get married as a motherfucking champion. So shout out to her and her husband to be. But yeah, that shocked me that this fight was a split, because it shouldn't have been. This fight was a unanimous win for Carla. You could make a case Carla won every single round, except for the last one possibly. But other than that, you could make a case that she won every fucking round. And the shame in that she won every round was that nothing happened in any of these rounds, basically. Like, this was the most... It's almost as if they didn't want to fight. Or if like if they truly were trying to like, bro, I understand Rose's coach is saying, like, because it could have been some type of fear there of Carla's wrestling and the fact that she took you out last time, but that was so long ago. Not to mention, Carla tried to take Rose down multiple times in this fight. Well, I'm not gonna say multiple times, because the rare action in this fight, but the times that she did, Rose popped right back up. That right there, like Michael Bisping and other people said on the commentary, that should have killed the threat or the fear. That should have taken down that fear of the takedown, because you just realized, okay, I can get taken down and pop right back up. The fact that Rose still decided to keep her distance with somebody who was so very clearly worse than her on the feet at striking. Like, Carla Esparza's punches she was throwing was just god-awful. Like, some of them just looked god-awful. And you just knew if Rose decided to engage, like, bro, this is a fight. You get hit in fights. It just happens. You can't not engage. That's what was weird to me. Plus, Rose is the champion. And it almost felt like she just was thinking to herself, well, I don't know how she was thinking to herself she did enough to win any of these rounds aside from that last one. But fighting as if you think you have won with so little output is amazingly crazy to me. Like, wildly crazy to me. Because I'm looking at this fight, and I dead ass thought Carla Esparza won every single round except for the last one. This should have been a unanimous L for Rose. And I'm thinking to myself, is Rose really finna let her? Because I'm expecting Rose in one of these rounds to just go nuts, right? Especially in the last round. Going into the last round, I'm thinking to myself, Rose have to have a finish. Like, I knew she needed a finish to win this fight. And the same shit transpired. So I'm like, what the fuck is happening, bud? Like, I was flabbergasted. Like, I didn't know what the fuck was happening. Like, cause I'm like, yo, Rose, is you gonna engage? Like, and people like people say, oh, well, Carla didn't. Bro, Carla actually was moving forward in this fight. And listen, one of the funniest things after this fight was Joe Rogan talking to Carla Esparza. Like, he was just dumbfounded about how bad this fight was. But in realizing that now people who shitting on her for winning that fight saying, oh, she didn't deserve to win the fight, bro. When Adesanya and Romero fought and people was like, oh, there's nothing going on in this fight, it's not Adesanya's job to initiate that fight, bro. Who got who want to win the title? Romero should be fighting like he want to win that title. If you want to sit back and chill and relax and let me win by points and do nothing, that's your prerogative, not mine. So I have no problem with Carla Esparza and how she approached this fight and how she ended up having to fight this fight. Like she said, when a fight get presented in front of you, you fight it the way it's presented in front of you. You might change the game plan. And that's the gist of what she said after the fight. I'm not mad at her. She did what she had to do. I'm disappointed in Rose for allowing herself to lose her title like that. Because at the end of the day, it kind of felt like she just... And, you know, the disappointment is coming from the fact that I saw Amanda Nunes lose one of her titles a couple months ago. And it really felt like Amanda just didn't care no more. Like that was a burden to her. So she was just, because she didn't fight an Amanda Nunes fight. And then you got this one where Rose is just like, what the fuck? Like, Rose, you circled the cage the whole fight, basically. You even have parts of the fight where you just threw your hands up and stuff, like you waiting for her to engage you. What? You the champion. And she winning these rounds right now. Listen, Carla Esparza could have ran sprints in a circle around in that last round, and she would have won this fight. And it's people saying, well, the first round should have been judged at 10-10. No, it shouldn't have. No, it shouldn't have. The little bit of output that did happen in that first round, Carla won it. I mean, I hate to say it because I wanted Rose to win the fucking fight, but the fight that I watched last night, Rose did not win a single round. And if she did, it was that last one. And I gave her that last one, I think. Other than that, this was one of the worst title defenses I have ever seen in any sport. That was very shocking. I don't understand the Trevor Whitman was at least telling her, like, you got to engage. Like, all right, it's time to engage. It's time to show out. Like, do what we came here to do. The other coach is just, yeah, this is the game plan. Like, well, how foolish can you be? This is the game plan to run around the cage? Bro, Carla can attempt one takedown, and she don't even have to keep her down for long, and that one takedown could win the round. Joe Rogan kept saying it, and he was right. Like, Carla could, the amount of the output that Carla had to do to win this fight was probably a record low for any title won. Like, nothing basically had to happen for her to win this fight. She could attempt to take down once every round if she wanted to, and she probably win those rounds because of the lack of output in most of these. And then it was a part in like the last round where they started to engage finally, and I'm like, this is what I thought the fight was gonna be from the rip. Excuse me. Like, bro, Rose, you're going in and out because of your speed, your footwork. It's way, like, I see so many people talk about Rose's hand speed, which rightfully so. Her footwork. There's nobody in that division who can stand with Rose. I don't understand what fight I just watched. And then the craziest part is Rose thought she won. And I'm like, what? Like, the craziest hand raise of the night to me was when Shogun Rua lost, right? And they called the other dude's name, and Shogun like raised his hand in excitement. And I'm like, what? I'm like, did they change this man's name or something? And then the other dude raised his hand too. And then they got done with the dude's name finally, and then Shogun put his hands down. So I'm like, Shogun, did you really just get excited when they raised? Like, bro, your first name is not that man's first name. You should not have got excited just now like you won when they was announcing the winner, and the first name of the winner was that man's first name. Shogun, what's going on? But shout out to Shogun, the legend. He gonna be in the Hall of Fame. He already in the Hall of Fame, I believe, actually. But yeah, just a very weird fight from Rose Namajunas and Thug Rose and Carla Esparza. But like Carla Esparza about to have a fire ass weekend, I tell you that much. She about to have a fire ass weekend. And hey, she didn't have to mess up her face at all. I mean, shit, Rose had like a bruise under one of her eyes, so I didn't even catch the punch that Carla hit her with that did that, because, boy, this was a testament of patience and time. Because what a fight. What a lack of a fight. But hey, shout out to Carla Esparza. She got it done. She did what she had to do. And at the end of the day, as long as that title was on her waist now, you did good, darling. You did good. You're doing good, sweetheart. But then we get to Charlie Olives. Charlie. Now listen, bro. Y'all know when I do these UFC breakdowns, I talk about the the main shit. Obviously, we talk about other shit in it, you know what I'm saying? I haven't done a wrestling review in a minute, but that's because I promised that I was going to take a couple weeks off of the wrestling because of how heavy the WrestleMania weeks was. We did 2 straight weeks of WrestleMania week. I know some people who watch this really want me to talk, football, basketball, and stuff like that, plus the playoffs going on. I promise you, once the playoffs end for basketball, football season obviously starts around that time. So it's really no off days to do wrestling because wrestling is nonstop. And that's the beauty of it all. But I'm still going to be here for pay-per-views. We got a pay-per-view going on tonight. I'm going to watch WrestleMania Backlash and talk about that tonight. No worries, bro. We good. But Charlie Oliveira coming in like the big dog. Obviously, he win this fight. He couldn't win the title. We already didn't discuss that. But he ended up winning this fight. And like I said, the Charlie Oliveira is just on a different level. I think one of the things that's underrated about him is how he can stand up and bang with people. Like, people talk about how his submissions, and rightfully so, because Oliveira is the greatest submission specialist in UFC history. But Charles Oliveira can stand up and punch and take a punch too. Like, the man can, because he hurt Gathje in this fight. Like, him, for one, it was funny because I think him and Gathje rocked each other to start the fight. But he rocked Gathje to start this fight, which made me realize Gathje got a weak chin on him also. He just got a fucking chest full of heart and he will refuse to go. But boy, the thing that I love about Oliveira is he don't give you the option to let that heart keep going as far as like taking punches. No. He puts you in a different type of deep end. And I think that's why I love Charles Oliveira so much. Because Charles Oliveira is one of my favorite UFC fighters all time. And I think the reason is because when I used to fight and when I trained and whatnot, and I'm going to start fighting again, not to be professional or nothing, just because I like it. When I start doing it again, when I was a kid, right, I always wanted to be a WWE wrestler. I didn't want to be a UFC fighter at first. I done said that. Once I realized it was no clear path to get to becoming a WWE wrestler, that's when my focus changed to I want to be an MMA fighter, UFC, Strikeforce, whatever I got to do to get to one of those. The fighter that I always imagined that my final form would be was never Jon Jones. Because Jon Jones is taller than everybody, the motherfucker longer than everybody. I never thought I was going to be Jon Jones. I thought that I was going to be Charles Oliveira. I thought I was going to be a dude who could stand up and bang with you. I'm not a boxer, even though I am about to start taking boxing classes. I'm not a boxer. Neither is Charles Oliveira. But he can stand up and bang with you. His technique standing up is very good to where it's not like this dude can't stand up and hit. Nah, that man got a phenomenal stand-up game that I don't know why people don't give more credit to it. He got great hand technique. He got his punches is great. Like, he throw power punches. Like, he got great counter punches. The only problem with Oliveira is he get caught too much sometimes. And then, not to mention, he got a strong chin because he don't even, like I said, really be going down. He goes down on purpose to try to get people to come down in that deep end with him. But see, when I always thought, like, how great could I be, I thought that my end form would be Oliveira. Look at how last night when he hurt Dustin Poirier. Shout out Dustin Poirier. When he hurt Gathje, he didn't go down there trying to ground and pound that man. He immediately tried to go to his jiu-jitsu and tried to make that man tap out. And eventually got to the tap out. First started with a triangle. Transitioned to an armbar. Transitioned to a choke, to a rear naked choke. And got that man sunken in. Readjusted the rear naked choke. And it was over right there. See, that's a different type of deep end right there. Them is not the same waters as when you're getting grounded and pounded or when you're getting stumbled around because you're getting hit by bomb. This is a different type of water. We're not giving you a chance to use your heart to get out of this one. Now, you either about to go to sleep and have no choice but to lose, or you're going to tap out and save your brain. But it's no getting up from this. And that's why I love Charles Oliveira so much, bro. Because I thought that that's what I was going to be one day. And he is a living proof that you can do what he can do and be great at it. You don't have to be the greatest stand-up dude and knock everybody out. There, you can legitimately beat. Did he kind of remind me of Gracie? How people was like, "Oh, Gracie beat." Now Charles Oliveira is not a small man, but just look at what this dude. He not trying to ground and pound with you, bro. Even though he have beaten dudes with that, this man legitimately is so confident in his technique. He could make you tap from in. Bro, he even tried to pull guard last night to get in the tap. I just think it's no fight that this man cannot fight. And I truly believe when you have somebody who is this insanely good at making people tap out, you always have to worry about that. He is always in control when he had that. It's like Anderson fighting Chael Sonnen. He always pulled out that submission. It's like Frank Mir in the heavyweight division. You want to stand and bang and fight, but it's scary because this motherfucker can catch you in any type of submission and fuck your shit up. He was losing that Brock fight. Caught him in that leg lock or in that ankle lock, that heel lock. Fucked it up. And do you see some of those bends that those submit? You gotta tap or he breaking it. Frank Mir will break your shit. He done broke a man's arm. Like Frank Mir is breaking your shit. So Charles Oliveira to me, man, this new form, that's why when I saw Gathje saying, man, this man knows the way out. Like he done taken those ways. I'm like, man, this ain't that same Charles Oliveira, dog. This is not that same Charles Oliveira, dog. This is a champion. This man done. For one, to get through what he used to be, to get to the point that he was fighting for a title should have let you know that he was a different man. The fact that he won that title should have let you know he was a new man. That old Charles Oliveira, the fact that could ever cross your mind was the first mistake for Justin Gaethje. Because that Charles Oliveira is not who this Charles Oliveira is. This Charles Oliveira got stripped of his title and said the champion has a name. His name is Charles Oliveira. And I'm going to go listen to how that name is abbreviated or how it's pronounced so I can get the exact pronouncing of it, bro. The exact pronouncing of it. When you thought that, oh, he know the way out. No, he do. This new Charles do know the way out. It's only one way out. And that's making you tap out. And he keep doing it time after time after time. This is a new man. He may still be in the body of a dude who had that record and those losses and those downfalls and those setbacks. But this is a new warrior. This is not this is the same animal but a different beast. Shout out Kobe. I'm telling you, I don't know who beats this man. You know what I would love to see? I don't know. I gotta go check on the weight classes and whatnot. Charles Oliveira against Kamaru Usman. I'm just throwing them in there now. I just want to see greatness take on greatness now. You know what I'm saying? Because that'd be an interesting fight. Charles Oliveira could take that stand up from Kamaru Usman. And Kamaru Usman probably the best wrestler in the UFC right now. But could he be able to defend against all those? The problem when you fighting Charles Oliveira is you could take him down. Or you could go down and play that ground game with him. But the fact that this man know how to put you in so many different fucking submissions is a problem. He survived the ground and pound from Michael Chandler. So his heart just as big as Justin Gaethje and all these other dudes. The difference, he can back up that heart with impeccable technique, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy. Charles Oliveira is that dude, man. Charles Oliveira is the fucking dude, bro. I was half a second off of calling that motherfucker the GOAT last night. That's how much I love Charles Oliveira. I love his story. I love his look. I love his attitude. I love his energy. I love everything about him. I wish he could learn how to speak some fluid English so I could, when he talk, he could, other people could catch his vibe too. But he already got people loving him. I mean, he was in Justin Gaethje's place last night, and the crowd still was going crazy for him at multiple points. Like, you cannot deny this type of greatness. And when you see this type of I told y'all before, man, I know when I see unbelievably great talent. I know when I'm looking at a GOAT level talent. I know when I'm looking at greatness in front of me. Charles Oliveira, Charlie Olive, is a fucking GOAT level fighter right now, bro. It is no ways out. He is the final boss. He is Crow in Def Jam New York, one of the greatest games of all time. Don't know why Xbox won't put that on backwards compatibility. Insane to me, but I digress. This motherfucker is a final boss, bro. I'm telling you. I don't know who beat this man, but boy, the motherfucker that beat him is going to be a monster. So this pay-per-view was a phenomenal one. I enjoyed myself. Well, I don't want to say it was a phenomenal. It was great because my guy won. Tough night for Trevor Whitman. Both of his fighters lost. Would have been a better night if Rose had won, but that was a rough fight. That was a very rough fight. Still, a ton of respect for those two women and all the fighters who performed on the card tonight and on the prelims, because I watched those too, but we don't talk about prelims, so maybe one day we will. But shout out to everybody who performed in the octagon, man, because it takes some type of balls to do that type of shit. So appreciate y'all for joining me, checking me out. This is definitely Kicking It with Saint. Bruh, I be watching the MMA Hour. I thought that was Ariel Helwani's show. It'd be multiple people on it, bro. That's a nice name for that show, the MMA Hour. I like that. I got to come up with a name for my MMA show that I'll be doing, because this is basically straight MMA when we do these MMA reviews. So I want to come up with a name for them. But I'm also trying to come up with another name for the NBA ones. Like, I call all of them Kicking It with Saint right now, but that was just the football one at first. Now it's done become the title for all of them. But I am going to eventually switch the names from Kicking It with... Kicking It Saint will always be the football one. Like, that will always be the football one show. And the Kicking It part is a huge shout out because, for one, I just be kicking it. And two, Pat McAfee is what inspired me to finally start doing that. So, plus I love Justin Tucker. So, I can always just get him to a little nod, because I probably won't show too much kicker. We're not gonna get into that, but I gotta come up with a name for the MMA one. I just was thinking to myself, that MMA Hour is pretty fire. Obviously, I'm not gonna do no goofy shit like try to steal it or put nothing on it, or like try to make a name that's anywhere near that. But I do need to do some thinking, because that's a pretty fire ass name, and I'm already losing as far as like them being big names and all that, but losing at the title too. I mean, come on, man. I blow it one day in the name of the MMA show. They're gonna be trying. People gonna look through the channel for certain type of stuff, man. And if they want to see basketball type of, breakdowns and stuff, I want them to be able to go to the basketball ones. You know what I'm saying? If they going through all of them and just Kicking It with Saint, then it's gonna be forever trying to find the shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to come up with a name with for the MMA shows and whatnot. But I appreciate y'all for joining me, man. Listen, I do have one request from here on out. Just comment on the video. Just leave comments, talk about stuff in the comments, topics and all that type of shit. You don't have to like it. You don't have to even, I would appreciate it if you shared it, but, just comment. Talk about things. Tell me what you think about shit that I talk about. How I can grow the channel and things of that nature. But with that, I do appreciate you for joining me. I'm finna light this blunt up. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want you to light one up also if you got one on you. If not, that's cool too. But tell somebody you fuck with them. Tell somebody you love them. Give my Dukes the biggest of hugs and kisses. It's Mother's Day, man. It's Mother's Day. You only get one of those. Saint out.
Winning has a price. And leadership has a price. So I pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled. I challenge people when they don't want to be challenged. And I earned that right because my teammates came after me. They didn't endure all the things that I endured.